Industrial Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, several other terms du jour or of the year or something. Are these just a fad? Are they competing with each other? Does anybody care? Are there any benefits? This podcast is brought to you by Ignition from Inductive Automation, and this is Gary. Recently, I put a blog post in. It's a kind of a research report from a company in India that surveyed 62 of their customers, and they asked them why they were doing Internet of Things, what they were doing the projects for, and what kind of benefits did they have. And I found this pretty interesting, and it really hit a lot of views in LinkedIn. I had to take it down briefly, had a bit of a discussion with, I don't know, a marketing guy or something. I guess in India, they do things differently with journalism than they do in the United States. But we worked it out. I kind of cut it back and reposted it. And it could be found on my blog site, themanufacturingconnection.com, under the title Research Reveals Real Company Benefits from Internet of Things. So what I was thinking, I'm heading off to Germany next week, and a few years ago I was there, and they kicked off Industry 4.0, and everybody's talking about Industry 4.0. And then there became the Industrial Internet of Things, and that was really hyped a lot, and a lot of articles and a lot of speeches and PowerPoints and whatnot. And in some places where I interviewed people, this was the, shall we say, anti Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 essentially was developed to help strengthen and save is a strong word, but it helped strengthen the German machine building industry, which is the core foundation industry behind the German manufacturing strength. And so that's obviously very important to them. And so they came up with this business strategy, really using technology that has been developed and needs to be brought together such that it will help the German machine builders do a better job of building and selling machines. Industrial Internet of Things, what is it? It was kind of like the industrial internet. Internet is IP technology, Internet Protocol technology over a media called either Ethernet or Wi-Fi and so on. And basically, it's just a high-class SCADA, if you will, as it began, sensors all hooked together and so on. And that's what we had with Internet of Things. So over the last maybe 4 years, we have been coalescing these things, and we have discovered that one, there are business benefits, and the leaders, companies that actually are leading rather than lagging as far as putting together a coherent manufacturing process and system, and actually a business based on that. We find the companies actually, showing very positive results depending on what all of these. And make no mistake, this really is not a technology initiative, it's a business strategy initiative. The technologies have existed for quite some time. Networking, they're just getting better. Networking is getting stronger. Sensors are getting more intelligent. Other devices are getting more intelligent. Everything can communicate. Mostly they can communicate one way or another, either on Ethernet or through a gateway to Ethernet. Gateways have become very important and a good business for some companies. This has all been going on the technology side. Another aspect of technology is involved in databases. As databases get better, stronger, more powerful. But we've already had databases. So what do we have on top of that is analytics. Analytics are really powerful as they can sort through all this data, maybe as much as big data, or maybe just a lot of data. Regardless of what that is, we need visualization. Visualization goes to any device that people have, from a desktop computer, if you still have those, to a laptop, to a tablet, to a smartphone. And it could be an operator, an operator that actually gets out into the plant. It could be maintenance technicians. It could be engineers. It could be plant managers. It could be a district or a division vice president of operations or manufacturing. Um, instant information, instant insight, instant watching what's going on in production. It's all good, and it's all for the benefit. So this is a lot of things that are going on with all that. I'm expecting to see more. Last year, the talk was at Hanover. The talk was almost non-existent of Industry 4.0, even though it's a German thing. And there was more talk of digitalization. You digitize data, and when you have a strategy, it's a digitalization strategy, if you catch my drift on that. But let's get back to this research done. It's a pretty small sample, 62 companies. Don't know where the companies were located, but the company is Indian, but they're somewhat global in reach. And as they surveyed their 62 customers, they found that all 62 were implementing Internet of Things programs for productivity improvement. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. We tie things together, we see where things are going, we see how different pieces of the operation are progressing and that sort of thing. And we should be able to go in. This could be used in conjunction with Lean, for example. We can spot places where we need a Kaizen event, or where we need to get some people together and do things like 5 whys or other root cause analysis, and figure out ways to enhance our productivity. Interestingly enough, the second leading, well, so everybody was doing that one. So the next one is energy optimization. I could start doing more measurements of energy. And actually, 20 some years ago, I quoted a project, which we didn't get, but it had to do with that very thing, checking the electric usage over time on different legs of a manufacturing plant's electrical grid. And going from there, and it could go into different areas of the plant, and there were a lot of areas. And the plant electrical engineer could look at this data coming in and begin to spot some problems just by looking at electric usage in a particular plant, and it's all of a sudden gone up. Maybe they have a problem with a machine, some motors, something like that. I thought pretty interesting and innovative in the mid-90s, and people are starting to do that now, and just double checks. I can put sensors on everything now. I can get this data and I can take a look at it. The next leading thing, so that was 35 out of 62, 30 out of 62, and these are probably not mutually exclusive, I'm guessing, was condition-based maintenance, which seemed to go along with 12 saying predictive maintenance. So condition-based maintenance and predictive maintenance are sort of dissimilar and sort of the same thing. It sort of depends on the industry you're in, your background, and that sort of stuff. But basically what I want to do is maintenance on a machine depending on its condition. And maybe depending on its condition, I can run through some algorithms and predict when things will happen. So it's possible to say predictive is like the next step, that I'm not doing maintenance. Definitely I'm not doing preventive maintenance, which is I just go around and I lube stuff on a regular rotating basis and all that sort of stuff, which we've discovered, one, is a waste of time often, and two, the very act of doing preventive maintenance can, in some or many cases, screw up the machine, and now I have to do, real maintenance. Yeah, I got to fix what's broke, which is the kind of maintenance you don't want. So anyway, condition-based maintenance and predictive maintenance are a couple of those. When I was doing some work with Dell and writing about Dell's gateway, IoT gateway, the first thing they picked on as a use case for why you would need a gateway and need Internet of Things, was predictive maintenance. I can get all this information, I can run it through algorithms, I can send it off to operations and maintenance and say, your machine is going to break in 3 months. Better start scheduling some downtime now so that you can fix it before it breaks, which is optimum, of course. Well, optimum is you never have to fix it, but all of us who ever worked in that stuff, we know better than that. Some interesting things that they came back with on benefits, and I'll just jump into that right now. They had an average improvement in top line. In other words, in sales at the top of the P&L chart there. And 5% was their average improvement in top line, and the range was 3% to 8% improvement. In other words, by doing things like supply chain kinds of things and being in touch with customers and so on, they could actually use it to grow sales. Average improvement in productivity of the people who have implemented these things was 13%. A 13% improvement in productivity, which is pretty significant. That's dollars. Okay, that's real dollars in the plant. The range is scary. The range is 7% improvement to 50% improvement. Now, there couldn't have been too many of the 50% ones, or we wouldn't have had only 13% on average. But boy, somebody really had problems, right? At any rate, productivity improvement really went up. Energy savings in energy expenses was about 5% on a range of 1% to 8%. They had a category called savings in indirect cost. I'm not really sure what that category consisted of. I know what we called it way back in my costing days, but we won't even go back that far. But they had a 15% savings in indirect cost and a savings in tooling and spares cost of 3%. If I know more about what I'm doing and when I'm going to have to do it, I can reduce spares. I can reduce my use of spares, my inventory of spares. And I've been involved in projects like that in my life that can save a considerable amount of money. And the tooling part, I guess, is just knowing better what I need. I don't either I don't have excess tooling, or I can tool just for what I need, and so on. Anyway, that's an interesting thing. You can go to my blog post and read all that stuff. But the interesting thing is that think of Industrial Internet of Things or Industry 4.0 or some of these other things you might think of, like digital transformation and some of the other words that are coming up. The real thing is that we're using the technologies, and we're using business processes, and we're using people, that's a key too, to improve overall our manufacturing, our business. Manufacturing business strategy is what it is. And that's where we need to go. That's where we need to be thinking. We need to be thinking about not how can I make more widgets per hour, regardless of the cost of making a widget, but as how do we improve our overall business profitability and strength by employing these new ideas and these technologies that have developed. So, this podcast has been brought to you by Ignition from Inductive Automation. This is Gary, signing off. Have a good week.